Hi guys, it's Emily from Novelle Novels and welcome to today's videos. This is my inspiring women in books. Now, I'm filming it on International Women's Day. I know it's coming up a bit late, but with everything with the birthday and the kids returning to school, I couldn't actually decide today's video for a long time. Then I decided to take advantage of the fact that it's International Women's Day and film a book talking about women in books that I love, that really inspired me. So here goes. I've picked 13 books because seeing as it's my birthday week, 13 is my lucky number. Don't know why. I mainly count it as the fact that Charlie, my sister, was born on the 13th, but for a lot of reasons it seems to be my lucky number. So here you go. Here's 13 inspiring women in books. Some of them are fiction, some of them are non-fiction. So let's get started. Had to start with my favourite one. One of my favourites, didn't I? Jane Eyre, from Jane Eyre. She inspired me because she is strong throughout. Her relationship with Mr. Rochester is strong. She goes through tortures and terrors when she's in boarding school, against her cousins, against everything. The world seems to be against her and she never once gives in. She doesn't go for looks. She doesn't go for appearances. She's intelligent. She likes her literature, which of course I love. My middle name, Jane. But really it's her strength throughout all the obstacles that are thrown her way that I love. And I love the fact that she is independent and stands up for who she is. And at a time back then when it wasn't common to be like that, this is something that's strung through, that's really shone out to me through this book. This is one of my favourite books of all time, and the more times I read it, the more I love Jane Eyre. So yeah, start with that. The rest of them, by the way, they're not in order, so don't think that I've got. Now the next one I wanted to do was going to be in another video, and that is Anne from Anne Frank from the Diary of Anne Frank. Now this is a book that I read when I was first a teenager, so very, very long time ago. It's a book that I will never ever forget. What people went through in the war was horrible. What the Jews went through was horrible. Yes, she's not a woman, she's a girl, but she has still inspired me, because if you think, when you read this diary, when you read about everything she went through, she is atypical of a lot of what the youngsters went through in this time. Not only did she have to go into hiding, she had to leave all her friends and family. She had to put up with so much, and throughout that she stayed strong. Even towards the end, when a lot of you have read this, you know that she ended up in a concentration camp, which is where unfortunately her life ended. But even in the concentration camp, she didn't give up till the very last bit, and even then it was illness that took her, not the fact that she gave up. Anne Frank is a girl that literally shone out through the war, and the fact that we have her diary to see what she went through. It was lovely to read about her friendships and her innocence, and growing from being quite young at the start of this to her late teens at the end. She reminds you that even in the darkest of times, you have to get there, you have to find strength, and I love this. I love the fact that her dad found her diary, and I think, to me, this is a book that you should read, everyone should read, and you should reread. I believe Chloe from Chloe's Books might be reading it for one of her book club groups, and if it is, I'm saving it to read it then, because I want to reread this again and again. I loved it. The next one's another classic. I've got a bit of a battered copy of it, and that's The Colour Purple. And my character in this that really inspired me is Cecilia. At the start of this, there is a trigger, and I will say this straight away. She gets raped by her father, and that is very traumatic to read at the start. She then two of her children are taken away from her. She has been forced into an ugly marriage. She's got no one to talk to but God, and then she meets Shug Avery, the singer, the magic woman, and discovers that the pain not of rivalry but of love and support of women. Her feminine strength throughout all of what she went through in this book is amazing. I love her letters. It's done in letter format, so she starts off again. She's a 14-year-old girl, and she goes through one of the worst things ever. Like, being raped is awful, and to be raped by your father, someone you should be trusting, is horrible. But I love the way this is written, and she finds strength and she finds love in an unlikely place. Love it. I love her sister too, but Cecilia she really shines through. Then I've got two non-fiction people, so they're not characters in books, they're women that are through books. I think, to me, Dr. Amanda Brown, who wrote The Prison Doctor, her stories in this show an immense strength. She goes from working in a cosy country practice, being a GP, to working in some of the hardest places in the world, the prisons. She works with men, she works with women. You see so many things that she goes through with that, but she never gives up her job. She carries on going through days. And reading her 2 books, I've got this one and The Woman Inside, which is her next book, both of which are amazing books. And Dr. Rand, she treats inmates in the UK's infamous prisons, from miraculous pregnancies to dirty protests. What she goes through is amazing, but she carries on going. She goes to work, she does her job. And I love the way this book, this and the following book, talk about what she went through and her stories. Amazing book for everyone to read. The next one, I couldn't do a book on books without someone who, to me, she's right. This is not in this is one of her books. Basically, Cathy Glass. That's not her real name. It's her pen name she writes because she was a fosterer. She fostered so many people. The author of this fostered, I think, over 100 foster care children, and she writes different stories for each child. And when you actually want to, you can, once you've read her book, you can follow up to find out what happened to the child. Go on her website, it tells you where to go to find out what happened to this child. This is a book that I hope to get to this month, and it's one of them. But I've read so many of her books. Finding Stevie was one of my favourite ones, and that's about a child that she looks after who's gender fluid. And I think that fluidity, the way she describes that, the way she describes about every single child she foster cares, is amazing. The way she's telling their stories, she is awe-inspiring. We fostered as a family, and I remember going back and hearing about what the children went through. But the way Cathy Glass is telling their stories, and it's their stories she's telling, how she looks after them, how she gets faced with quite a lot, and she still does it, and she's still fostered. I don't know if I've got it in me to foster, but one day I would love to do that. I'd love to give back, and I think all foster carers deserve praise, but the way Cathy Glass describes these series, she's an inspirational woman. All foster carers out there, hands up to you. You've been through a lot, I know, and you go through so much, and you're looking after children that really need you. So this is why I chose her. She's an epitome of that. I'd love to know her real name. I'd love to shout out to her that she deserves all the praise she gets for what she does. Now, sorry about that, my books are falling over. Now I've gone for another real life person, Anna Cleves, one of the 6 Tudor queens. I read this last year. Well, I think it was even this year. I can't even. Do you know what? It was March now as I'm filming this, and I can't even remember when I read it. But Anna Cleves is probably my favourite out of all the queens that I've read about so far. She's one of the latter known queens. The 4th, the one that he divorced, the one that he never really knew. And this is her story. And in this book, I found out a lot more about a lady who got taken away from from where she lived, where she grew up, to a different country to meet a man that she doesn't really know. No chemistry, nothing else, and hear her story. Now, yes, this is a bit fiction in this book, and that's why I've cast it as part fiction, part non-fiction. But her story in this book is absolutely incredible. Read all the Tudor queens, read them in order, but do not skip past a queen that is often forgotten about, because she had strength. She got there, and what she went through was amazing, and how she carried on going till the very end. She was kind to her stepchildren. She had a kind personality, and she deserved a lot more praise. She's classed as the ugly queen, which I hate the word ugly anyway. And I think this is amazing. One of the best yet. I can't wait to read the next one this month in April. But yeah, so I had to count her. Now, you guys know some of my favourite books coming up now. Obviously, Fleetwood Shuttleworth in The Familiars, another awe-inspiring woman. She lost so many babies, and I know this is fiction, I know this is not true, but the way this is described, she's got no living children, and she goes for any lengths to save the child that she is carrying. She sticks up for a friend in this. She shows strength. She goes from being quite weak at the start to being strong at the end. Set in 1612, when women are supposed to do as they're told, and she fought back, and I loved reading about her in this. This is my favourite Stacey Hawes. I did love The Foundling, but this is my favourite Stacey Hawes book, and I cannot wait to read the next one. Now, another one that I picked, that I've kept this book, and I think it deserves, is Franny Langton in The Confessions of Franny Langton. Again, the trauma she goes through, the love that shines through in this book. She's a slave. She's taken away from her family to London, and she's accused of murder. But did she really do it? The story in this is amazing. Franny Langton's a character that I thoroughly, thoroughly loved. Yes, this book's heartbreaking. Yes, this is challenging. You don't know if she really did kill this person till the very end. And I still think this is an amazing book. thoroughly loved it. Would love to read more of Sarah Collins' books if she's written. Don't know quite no details, but she's amazing. Next one, you know I'm going to go with this. Flurry from Old Baggage. I know this author is a bit controversial from some of the things she's written apparently, and I don't love her other two books as much as I love this one, but the first one is the best. And Flurry is the secondary character. The main lady is Mattie. But Flurry's strength, even through the secondary characters, the way she's underlyingly supporting everyone, underlyingly doing so much good without getting the praise, without being shouted about. She does it without praise, but she does it because of what she believes in. She's one of the suffragettes. She suffered so much trauma at the time of the suffragettes. And I love the way Lisa Evans has written about her. Thoroughly love this. Don't go at this reading about Mattie Simpkin, the lead protagonist. Go for the underdog. The underdog is always the better. And that's something that really shines through for me. Again, I couldn't do a video with inspiring women in books without talking about my favourite character ever, Harper from Curse of Dark and Lonely. I don't think in the second and third book she is described, probably not the second one, she's not described as well as she is in the first one. But her strength, she suffers from cerebral palsy, she has a limp, she fights back about her disability. You guys know any books when I talk about strong women, I talk about this character. She's one of my favourite characters I've ever read about, and one I will always shout about. I don't need to go into too much detail. You guys know that I love the Curse of Dark and Lonely series. You know I love Harper. You know I love her strength, the way she stands up to Rian, the way she fights against her disability. She doesn't let it get her down, and that's something that I love about her. Thoroughly one of my favourite characters. Sorry about this. Next one is Sophia from Cinderella is Dead. Again, another book I love, another character I love. Sophia knows the story of Cinderella is Dead. You all know the story of Cinderella. But in Sophia, she doesn't want to marry a prince. She wants to be with her best friend. This has got the best LGBTQ+ romance that I've ever read about. And it's not just about the romance. It's about a girl fighting back from the trends. Not being told what to do. She wants to fight. She wants to find out what really happened to Cinderella. She wants to get rights and fairness for all women. She doesn't want to be... She's just amazing. She's not frightened. She's strong, and I love her in this. This is one of my favourite books ever. It's a book I got from Tandem for a read-along, and probably one of my favourite read-alongs I've ever read in my life. This book is amazing, and I'm definitely going to get another Kaylin Byron book, which I believe another one's coming out this year. Another author that you know, Charlie from Charles Heathcote's one of my favourite friends. He's one of my good friend on here. I love the guy to pieces. And I'm going to pick Doris from the Indisputably Doris. Now, I love her in all the books, but in the second book, she has something happen to her that is pretty scary. I can't give it away because it's sort of going through this, but she's a battle axe. She's an old lady who really fights back anyway. She wants to get what she wants to get. She's an owner of a rock, but she's a really feisty lady. But in this book, she stands up for people she believes in and a lady that she really wants to believe in. And her strength in this book probably shines through the most. And it leads on to the third book where you see her still struggling for what happens in this book. Something traumatic does happen. I really recommend the series because obviously I love Charlie, but it's not just that. It's because his series is amazing. And this book is amazing. Thoroughly loved it. So definitely, guys, pick this up. Pick Charlie's books up. I'll link Charlie's channel below, and that'll be where he'll show the link for getting his books. But thoroughly recommend the Doris series. But probably pretty much the second one is even better than the first. I think the second one's probably my favourite in the series. And then book 13, the last book, and that is the lady from this is Eileen from The Switch. Eileen is the grandmother in this book, and this is a book about a grandmother and a granddaughter who switch lives. The grandmother in this book is the one that really shines through for me because she goes and lives her life. She lives a life that she could have been, that was hidden from her. She goes off and lives her granddaughter's life. She meets people, she influences people. She inspires her granddaughter in so many ways. Now my mum's mum, when she was alive, especially inspired me. I would have loved to have known, I'd love to have swapped lives with her in some ways. I think she would have loved to have met people. She was accepting and a warm lady, and I think that Eileen shines through on that, and she's the epitome of my nan in that way. She meets people, she accepts for people for who they are, and I love her for that. I love the way she meets some of her gay friends, she meets some of the flamboyant people, she meets people that are hiding their own secrets, and I thoroughly thoroughly loved this book. One of my favourite books ever. Now, they are inspiring women. They're some of the inspiring women that I've read in books. Let me know in the comments below which women in books inspire you. I hope you all like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.